seated.
Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I'm Diane Sander and a member of the Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she and her. Today we are meeting in the Admiral at the Lake in the 2U Sanctuary and continuing to meet virtually on Zoom. We are glad you are here. Whichever way you are attending, if you're in our sanctuary and would benefit from noise-canceling headphones, we have a pair for adults and one for children, and you can see our tech team at the back. As we navigate the varying needs of health and wellness, particularly related to COVID, we welcome you to wear a mask. We have masks available at the table as you enter the building. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we're excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you would like, there are blue mugs available during coffee hour. You can use to signal to others that you would like them to come up and say hello. Not sure what to say? The Drum Allies group has come up with a question each week to help spark conversation. You can find the question posted on the coffee hour table. Additionally, we always meet people in the kitchen after coffee hour, and it's a great place to see old friends and make new ones. We want to remind everyone that the sounds of children are welcome during our service. Absolutely, yay. Our worship today is led by the Anti-Racism Multicultural Ministry, or called ARMM for short, a 2U committee that works to accountably dismantle racism at Second Unitarian. They create, recommend, and collaborate on resources and events like this service for addressing oppression and promoting multiculturalism within our community. Music is provided by the 2U Music Ministry. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, religious education, music, and technical production. Due to the challenges of our printer and budget considerations, we are printing the liturgy and the QR code instead of a longer order of service. You can find many announcements of what's going on at the church in your virtual order of service. There'll also be text displayed on the screens. You also want to remind people, as the world celebrates Earth Day this week, that everyone is welcome to use their green thumbs to help Teresa Kennedy's 2U Building and Grounds Committee outside. Yay. As we greet our neighbor today, let's do it by winking. This is a time to greet your neighbor.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, where we keep love at the center. Whether you are joining us for the first time or the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, when you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our congregational hymn, Spirit of Life.
Morning. So now our words of covenant. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within the vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion. Thank you. Oh, am I supposed to? Yeah, great. Oh, now we light a chalice, right? Is that? Ashina. So let's light our chalice. In just a moment, Nolan here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalice, the symbol of our faith. We will light our chalices this morning with these words. Look, damage has been done. Sometimes I slip through unhealed cuts and for a while slip away. 17 years and one person asked me, aren't you tired? When I'm tired is when I stop coming. Then they don't see me. Because if I don't see myself, why keep looking at a mirror that doesn't reflect? The time that those white people heard their white UU minister tell his congregation they need not fear Black Lives Matter activists because they do not threaten violence in the same way as Malcolm X. I know. Did anyone comprehend how terribly wrong that went? If we pass out from sheer exhaustion at coffee hour, will anyone realize that the entropic slide into violence was theirs to embrace or avoid? They don't even notice we left. until they need some representation. And find that they have come up short. They be looking for brown faces the way you look for loose change. They'll be like, didn't we have, I can't remember her name, but she was here for some time, knowing full well you never asked my name. They'll say something like, our community isn't the faint of heart. Chuckle, chuckle, self-congratulatory chuckle. Seriously though, it's not funny to be exacerbating heart issues. Coastal levels in black UUs on Sunday morning ain't no joke. Should we speak again and again when the air around us holds stubbornly still? Should I keep talking until I suffocate? I did not come here to be a ghost. If we all supposed to be in the same faith and they want to worship together, they need to learn curiosity. Y'all better learn to learn. Let curiosity lead them past. We are the brown faces that we may count them. May I remind you that question has been answered. I mean, worry about their own lives, as in, why would we even want to be among you? What sanctuary is even available to shelter from the pain that whiteness was created to create? They don't even know. All right, that's it. Invitation to giving. Karen.
This centering music is Erzeli Malad. This is a lament by Werner Jägerhuber. Despite his very German name, he was a Haitian composer in the early half of the 20th century. He studied music in Germany. He returned to his native Haiti when Hitler and the Nazis came to power, and it was a bad time to be a black man, or all kinds of other people it was a bad time for. He spent the rest of his life in Haiti, and he wrote music like this song. It was originally for voice, and the lyrics are a lament to the Haitian Vodou spirit Erzeli, a prayer and a lament.
I know it says that Time for All Ages today is from Lindsay Michael. My daughter's not feeling well, and so I'm here in her place, and Lumi's going to help me a little bit as we read the story and talk a little bit about Seven Grandfathers' Teachings. The book I'm going to read is called Aneen, I See Your Light. I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. Like, I see you too. I see all of you, and I see your lights shining forth. Thank you so much for coming up. Part of what we're going to talk about are these Seven Grandfathers' Teachings that you have in your order of service, I believe. So, can you just hold this for me for right now? Don't put it back up. Thank you. This is from the Ojibwa tradition. Don Quigley, who's the author, is from North Dakota. Sometimes you might feel invisible, but I say to you, Aneen, I see your light. Can you say Aneen? Aneen. So if you say that to somebody, you look at them, look at their eyes, their beautiful eyes, and you say, Aneen. Aneen, I see more bright in you than dark. I see courage when you face fears, though others hide. Beautiful, huh? You are brave like a bear. And as we read each of these seven, you'll hear a particular animal mentioned with each one. Lumi would like to read a page, but you have to speak into this microphone right here.
Where's it?
Right there, Aneen.
Aneen, I see more given in you than take. I see respect when you wait, though others sprint.
Sorry. Pictures up on the screen.
You think of others.
You're not going to hear him. Let me do it this one, okay? You think of others before yourself, like what animal?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Aneen, I feel more selfless in you than selfish. I see humility when you walk alongside community, though others go alone. What are they doing here? Anybody know?
They're protesting.
They're protesting or demonstrating, right? Can you tell for what? Anybody see that? Any read the signs at all?
Climate change.
Climate change, protecting water, right? Water rights. Mini Wichoni, you are humble like wolf.
You are humble.
Do wolves have to work together?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of have to give and take, right? Oh, humility. Aneen, I taste more honey in you than hurt. I see love when you fly high, though others aim low. Anybody want to guess what animal it might be? You're flying high. Somebody that hasn't seen the book yet? Want to guess, Sella?
But okay.
Yes. You can soar solo like an eagle. Aneen, I know more wonder in you than boredom. I see truth when you watch, though others ignore. You learn from the earth like turtle. Aneen, I hear more song in you than noise. I see wisdom when you listen, though others chatter. You build knowledge like beaver. Aneen, I feel more sincerity in you than self-importance. I see goodness when you accept, though others judge. You watch your own heart like Shabe. Good beings. Good beings. They could be mysterious beings that we don't know anything about, like Sasquatch. That's what that big foot represents, I believe. Through all of these, most of all, I see you, all of you. Aneen, I see your light. And in just a minute, Lumi's going to pass out something special to you. I want you to see these. And Lindsay did put these together for you. And if we got some little ones, we'll ask the parent to please take it, like 2 and under maybe. The rest of you, I know, can be very, very careful and not rip them or anything. Does anybody know what this is hanging from here? A dream catcher, very good. What do you know about dream catchers? Anybody?
Catch your bad dreams.
Catch the bad dreams, right. And what about the good dream? You have a dream catcher? Cool. Yes, Sienna.
I have a dream catcher.
Okay. A little bit louder, I'm sorry. Yeah, the good dreams will come through, and the bad ones will go away at dawn, right? So you each get a little dream catcher like this, a little wooden one, and then on each page it says something about one of the 7 grandfathers' teachings. Love. And does anybody remember which animal was represented by love? Caring deeply for others and showing it through your actions. The eagle. Okay. Courage. Anybody remember the animal? Facing your fears and doing the right thing even when it's hard. Bear. Very good, Malachi. Truth. Being honest with yourself and others.
Wow.
Yes. Turtle. Humility. Understanding that everyone is equally important and not thinking you're better than others.
Wow.
Okay. Wisdom. Using what you know in a good way. Like building a dam or something. Yeah. Honesty. Telling the truth and being sincere.
I do not know that.
That's the one we aren't sure about. And they call it Shabe. Respect. Sasquatch. Right. Very good. Respect. Treating others the way you want to be treated. So before we sing kids out, Lumi, you want to go ahead and pass one out to each person? Go ahead. Why don't you give her one before they leave, okay? And why don't you stand right over there, and maybe people could get them as they walk to their classes, okay? Let's sing the children out. Thank you for listening. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Each year, we all make a commitment, a pledge, to support the ministry of our church. In addition to this contribution, each Sunday we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice beyond our church community. To make your contribution, you can send a text to the number on the screen, which will be up when the music begins, or can be found in your virtual order of service. For those of us in the sanctuary, we will pass the collection plate around. You are welcome to add your change, cash, or checks to the plate. For the month of April, we are sharing our plate with the Sanctuary Working Group, which provides material aid and financial assistance to immigrants seeking resources in our city. This week, we will continue our Social Justice Minute with Alicia Obando, our 2U catalyst.
Good morning. I'm Alicia Obando, the Social Justice Ministry Committee Chair and 2U Catalyst, and welcome to our 2U Social Justice Minute that aims to highlight our church's social justice efforts. Tomorrow night, you can join 2U volunteers providing support and solidarity for folks being released from jail with the Chicago Community Jail Support from 6:30 to 9 at the Cook County Jail. On Monday, April 27th, please join us on Zoom for our monthly Social Justice Ministry Committee meeting at 7 o'clock. Friday, May 1st is May Day, a nationwide day of collective action. On this day, workers, students, and families rally, march, and take action across the country to demand a nation that puts workers over billionaires, with many refusing business as usual through no school, no work, no shopping. Please join us at the May Day rally in Union Park at 1 o'clock. We invite everyone to join us on Wednesday, May 6th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. for our Social Justice Ministry retreat right here at the church up in the loft, and dinner will be provided, so RSVPs are requested. And lastly, please take a look in your closet for any tennis shoes or sandals that you no longer need for our April donation drive. The donation bin, as always, can be found next to the elevator in the Palmer Room. And you can find out more about these and other social justice opportunities at the Social Justice Corner in the Palmer Room. Thank you.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Can you hear me? Great. Mighty God, Father of all, compassionate God, Mother of all, bless every person we have met, every face that we have seen, every voice we have heard, especially those most dear. Bless every city, town, and street that we have known. Bless every sight we have seen, every sound we have heard, every object we have touched. In some mysterious way, these have all fashioned our lives. All that we are, we have received. Great God, bless the world. Candles of joy and concern. During our ritual of lighting candles for our joys and concern, we want to continue to take care of one another. In the 2U sanctuary, you are invited to come forward and light a candle as you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting. We invite you to use the hand sanitizer. I always wanted to check to make sure it was out before I say it. Those in the ARMM, I invite you to come forward to take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly, Put your energy into the stone, and then, knowing your joy and sorrow to be shared by this community, let us lightly into the other bowl. For those of us on Zoom, join us by sharing your joys and concerns in the chat window. We hold all of these joys. Oh, you can come up. Oh, that's Tom's. We hold all of these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts.
We're going to sing hymn 1058, Be Ours a Religion, a few times over the next few moments of the service. So stay in your seats. Think of it like kind of a reflective call and response mantra. But 1058, Be Ours a Religion.
Good morning. I would like to share some remarks about race and my experiences growing up Unitarian Universalist. When I was thinking about my first, and I suppose I should mention, some of these might be challenging to hear. My first memories of race growing up in a Unitarian Universalist church in the Chicago area were making fun of the way that black people talk with one of my youth advisors. I was making fun of how black people talk, and so was she. And the other first memory that I have was our minister also making fun of how black people spoke from the pulpit in a sermon. I remember there being one black person, actually I think one person of color in the church that I grew up in my 15 or so years at that church. He was an 8th grader like me in our youth group, and I remember we were traveling on a youth group trip together, and the group found out that he, like some 8th grade boys certainly did then, and I assume still do, had made a list of the girls in the youth group and ranked all of their body parts on a scale from 1 to 10. I assumed that our youth advisor at the time, Tom Shade, who is now retired, he went on to become a Unitarian Universalist minister and is now retired and had talked to us about participating in the civil rights movement. I assumed that he would kind of excoriate this youth and treat him like a pariah for doing this, because that's what I was used to when black kids made mistakes. And to my surprise, his response was something like, I think he's gonna find out sooner or later that this is not a very effective way to get girls to like you. With his characteristic humor. I don't know if he spoke to that youth in private also. When I went to youth conferences for Unitarian Universalists, there were more people of color, but still very few. I would guess, a couple out of the hundreds who went, maybe 3%, 4%. At my very first youth conference, uncharacteristically, I'm not sure I ever saw this again at a youth conference, but there were about 5 African-American youth who were sort of a group, and they were hanging out, and I happened to be walking past them, and they started talking to me. They started making conversation, and in my mind, I was sort of confused as to why they were talking to me, because it was obvious that we weren't going to be friends. And I never saw those youth again at a Unitarian Universalist conference. Interestingly to me, another youth that I befriended and became one of my best friends in my youth and young adulthood, was African American. She also attended these youth conferences, and it's interesting to me because in our maybe many years of friendship, a decade of friendship, before we lost touch, I never once identified her as African American. She had a white mom who raised her, and she spoke the way that I did, and seemed to be comfortable in white culture. And she didn't identify herself as African American, even though looking back on her, she obviously was African American. I think I saw when she was 40 years old in 2020, she identified herself as African American, but she never did as a youth, though she did mention her, I believe, Cherokee ancestry. When I became a young adult, I was a counselor at a Unitarian Universalist camp for youth with some wonderful, wonderful young people, and they remain very dear in my heart. Sadly, I would have to report as I think back on race and racial issues. What comes to mind is a period when many of the youth were using the N-word, the white youth were using the N-word, and they considered that okay because they went to high schools that had black students. I don't think many black students, but they thought that there were a lot of black students at their high school. I also noticed that the black youth who went to youth group, who were able to integrate most easily into that predominantly white environment, tended to come from or be comfortable in white cultural backgrounds, to sort of talk white, maybe have white parents. And the ones who struggled the most didn't. They came from African American backgrounds or other backgrounds of color. When some years ago I was on the board here at Second Unitarian Church, I remember there was a service kind of like this one, and some Unitarian Universalist 2U members of color had made some suggestions for the church, some recommendations. And when I joined the board, I asked, how the board had been addressing those recommendations, and they said that they hadn't discussed them, to that date. So, I had us put it on the agenda, and then put it on the agenda again and again and again. It was 8 months before, actually we didn't discuss those recommendations, but they just sort of dropped off of the agenda. And this wasn't an individual effort on any of our behalf. It was the then outgoing minister, the then incoming minister, and every single one of us as board members who said, I don't think we have time for that this week, or I don't think this is the right time to discuss that. Let's do that next month at our next meeting. Let's discuss those issues. So 8 months later, those concerns disappeared from the agenda, and I remember calling our then music director, Amanda Thomas, to ask, am I going crazy? When I think back on these reflections about growing up Unitarian Universalist and my experiences with race, I think there are some lessons that I learned. And actually there was a relatively new member who said that she was kind of surprised that here at this church we don't have such a shared understanding of race and racial topics. And so I wondered, what would that look like? And here's what I think it would look like. I think it would be an understanding that race is a social construct that was created to justify slavery and Jim Crow and all that, basically to keep black people down and other people of color. And so being anti-racist in the way that being, anti-ableist means making sure that people with disabilities are fully included and lifted up. Being anti-racist, I believe, means making sure that people of color, black, indigenous, and other people of color are lifted up and fully included, and dismantling those systems that were designed to push them out and keep them down. It would also mean that racism has frankly been a part of Unitarian Universalism, and that we need to address it, we need to acknowledge that and address it, and take proactive measures against it. When I look back on my experiences, I think, it's possible to be colorblind, so to speak, like I was. I literally didn't recognize that my African American friend was African American, and yet I was very clearly had racial biases. I treated these, African American youth differently and worse than I would have if they were white youth. Similarly, I think it's possible to have a black friend, or in my case, one of my best friends who was black, and also at the same time I had these, to me, looking back, very clear and deep-seated racial biases that happen at the same time. I think that having those biases doesn't make us bad people. I don't think I was a bad person because I had those biases. And at the same time, I know I caused real harm, and that it's important for me to take accountability and address, take accountability for my actions. Being anti-racist doesn't mean not acknowledging that black people and other people of color make mistakes. Like the fellow 8th grader, he made a mistake, but it does mean, I believe, treating black people who make mistakes with at least as much grace and understanding as we would extend to white people. I also think, looking back on my experiences, that race and class and culture and even color are all interconnected, and that to address racism, we need to address all of those things together. And finally, I think if we as a congregation do the work of acknowledging our shared Unitarian Universalist past, regardless of what our individual role and relationship was to that history, if we acknowledge that past and take proactive measures to address it, I think we can create an anti-racist environment. I don't think we're there yet. It's my dream to be able to feel comfortable and feel responsible to invite my African American adopted daughter to this environment, which I am not currently able to responsibly do, but I pray that it may be so with our collective efforts. Thank you.
If you are a white person and you don't believe you feel defensive, so this isn't for you, I ask that you keep an open mind and listen to these words even if you don't believe that you need to. Maybe you don't, but maybe you do. In a LinkedIn post in 2024, Christian Ortiz, an Afro-Indigenous decolonial social scientist, wrote, "Conversations about race and diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and accessibility are often fraught with tension and defensiveness, especially among white people. This phenomenon, where white individuals shut down or react defensively when confronted with issues of race, has deep psychological and sociological roots. Understanding these roots is essential for fostering productive dialogue and meaningful progress. Many white people view themselves as just and non-racist. Confronting evidence of systemic racism or personal biases disrupts this self-image, leading to discomfort and defensive reactions as a means of preserving their self-concept. People's self-concept is often tied to their moral and ethical beliefs. Acknowledging complicity in systemic racism can feel like an attack on their identity. To protect their self-identity, white individuals may employ defense mechanisms such as denial, minimization, or rationalization, closing off meaningful engagement in discussions about race. In many white-dominated societies, cultural norms discourage discussions about race, deeming them impolite or divisive. This social conditioning leads to discomfort and avoidance behaviors. Acknowledging systemic racism and white privilege threatens the status quo and the benefits white people receive from it. Defensiveness can be a way to maintain these privileges. White individuals must take responsibility for their own education about systemic racism and their role in perpetuating it. This includes seeking out resources, engaging in self-reflection, and challenging their own biases. Recognize that learning about racism is an ongoing process that requires humility, openness, and a willingness to be uncomfortable.
Who here has heard of white supremacy culture? That's good. I remember having a very visceral reaction the first time I heard those words, especially because it was phrased something like, all of us are upholding white supremacy culture. But it does not mean that we are undercover Klansmen or that there's a secret group of them at our church. Rather, it's referring to what some people might simply think of as our culture, the assumptions, structures, and unspoken rules that shape our society and especially its institutions. It refers most to those aspects of our culture that are used to unfairly benefit some while keeping others at a disadvantage. I'm not going to go into detail about white supremacy culture today. What I am going to talk about is unconscious bias, which is a driving force in perpetuating white supremacy culture. Unconscious bias is a preference for or against a certain trait or action that we are not aware of holding. We all have it. Several scientific studies have shown unconscious bias to be instilled in us before the age of 4. And interestingly, when it comes to race, some studies even show that people who are not part of a dominant group will show an unconscious preference for traits of the dominant group, even while holding a conscious preference for their own group. We don't know what we don't know. We all know that, right? And it's hard to understand the ripple effects of harm that are caused by what we don't know. But what happens when we do become aware of an action that we didn't previously know, a bias or an action that we didn't previously know about? Let me tell you a story about attempting to change my own subconscious. I worked at Whole Foods for nearly 10 years, and one day, I witnessed a white woman almost run over a black child with her shopping cart. The child's mother pulled him out of the way just in time, but it's important to note that the child was not taking up extra space in the aisle. The white lady just didn't make any attempt to change her path. She vaguely noticed the mother and child, but didn't stop, and certainly didn't apologize. And I don't know why I thought it, but a nagging voice in my head said, she just expected them to move for her. This incident started me observing people's cart etiquette much more closely. Over the next few weeks, I came to realize that every time two carts were about to converge and racial dynamics were at play, there was a nearly universal pattern to who stopped for whom. Black stopped for white almost every time. And importantly, the people who are taking the right-of-way with their shopping carts do not even notice they're doing it. We only notice the times that we do stop. I see this as a microcosm of how unconscious bias shapes our everyday actions. Well, having made this observation, I decided that I just wasn't going to do that anymore. I would yield the right of way to people of color from now on, and I assumed I would be able to start doing this the very next day. How long do you think it took me to accomplish my resolution? 2.5 years. The first 6 months were just teaching myself to consciously notice who was around me. Then I had to learn how to not be awkward about stopping. It turns out people have very different responses to different ways you can stop for them based on their myriad identities. You'd probably be surprised just how many embarrassingly awkward ways there are to yield the right of way to somebody. I think I tried all of them. Now, over time, it became a habit to notice and to navigate nuanced ways to stop, but it was still a constant effort. I often noticed too late that I hadn't been paying enough attention. But this happened less and less frequently as time went on, and I became content with the progress I'd made. Then there came a day when I was walking in front of a small group of my family, and for no reason that I could fathom, they all bumped into me from behind. My husband, in an amused whisper, said, "Were you stopping for the black people?" I hadn't even noticed that the family crossing in front of us was black, or that I had stopped for anything other than waiting to cross the street. I had changed my subconscious. Now maybe you're thinking, congratulations, Kristen. You were able to do something that literally nobody was asking for. Indeed, I often questioned why it was important to me to keep trying over my 2.5 years. My answer is a little cheesy, but it's true nonetheless. It became not about the destination, but the lessons I was learning along the way. I learned to pay more attention to the people around me and how perceptions of their social standing affected how I and others treated them. I saw ripples of harm that I had been blind to my entire life. And once I started seeing it, I couldn't unsee it. I learned how to change my behavior, what it takes to do it, and how to dispel my internal shame at 1,000 small failures. I learned that when I find I've been wrong about something, rather than wallow in guilt or embarrassment, I should think about what I can learn from it. And last, I learned that talking to other people about it made it much easier. I think it's important to talk to people about the racism weaved into our everyday lives, about unconscious bias, about white supremacy culture. These things cause real harm. But for those of us focused on our shopping list, it's all too easy to not even notice.
Hello. My name is Curtis Smith. And many of you know me as the member of ARMM, but also as the chair of the Finance Committee here at 2U. My professional life is in finance, but the through line for me has always been justice and community. How money, power, and institutions tell the truth about what and who we actually value. When I think about race I I think the phrase that keeps coming back to me is race, living in covenant even when it's hard. We just spoke our covenant together this morning, and I want to stay with one line of it. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. I believe that line is doing something truly radical. It's not asking us to be polite, though it's good to do that. It's not asking us to be comfortable. It's asking us to be honest. And then it tells us plainly that our honesty will produce diversity and conflict. That conflict is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a sign that real people with real differences are actually showing up. And then, right in the middle of that tension, it asks us to hold love. Not love as a sentiment, not love as a reason to smooth things over. Love as the thing that even when we hurt each other or talked past each other or gone silent on each other, love as the thing that can find a way back home. That is the covenant we are called to live, and it is easy to say that on a Sunday morning. It's much harder when the hurt is not theoretical, when the conflict is not out there in the wider world, but here at 2U, in our building, in our leadership structures, in who feels safe walking into the community and who does not. Our wider UU covenant movement calls out that we are embedded in what's called white supremacy culture, not just the image of violent extremists, but a whole set of norms that center white people and whiteness as the standard, even in progressive and well-intended congregations. Things like perfectionism or defensiveness, a sense of urgency that leaves no room for relationship, power hoarding, and the assumption that staff and marginalized people will stretch endlessly while those with informal power remain unaccountable. We have been living our own version of that here at 2U. In recent years, conflicts around things like building, staff, roles, committees have become flashpoints for deeper questions about race, power, gender, class, and who actually gets to decide how this place runs. We have seen staff, especially those in more vulnerable positions, describe being overworked, having boundaries crossed, feeling scapegoated. And we have seen longtime leaders speak from a place of deep investment and also deep hurt about being associated with white supremacy culture. We have seen what happens when someone names these dynamics directly. Some of us hear a critique of systems and behavior, and others hear a personal accusation, an attack on character. The conversation can move quickly from how our staff are marginalized people being treated to how could you say that about me after everything I've done? And when that happens, the covenant strains. But what I find most painful is what comes next, because after the strain, we have often chosen silence. Racial conversations that get scheduled, postponed, rescheduled into non-existence, circles that are announced and then delayed, people who raise concerns and then feel they need to step back so others do not have to worry about hurting their feelings. An overall tone that is polite and diplomatic on the surface, while underneath there is wariness, distrust, and a lot of unspoken grief and anger. This too is about covenant. Because our covenant does not say, be honest in your communication unless it makes someone uncomfortable. It says, be honest and hold love. But silence is not love. Silence is the place where hurt calcifies. Silence is what happens when the covenant has been stretched too thin and that people no longer believe it will hold them, so they stop reaching for it. The people who quietly slipped away from this congregation, do we know why they left? The staff who felt overworked and underprotected, did they feel our covenant held them? The folks who raised concerns and felt sidelined, do they feel our love? Or do they feel our instinct to protect what we had built? I do not speak as someone outside the conflict or above it. I am part of this system as a former treasurer, as a Black man in a largely white congregation, as someone who believes deeply in this place, and also feels the pull of institutional caution and the fear of losing what we have built together. I know what it's like to be the person in the room who asked, implicitly or explicitly, to make my pain more manageable for others, to soften how I say things so the room does not get too tense, to wait for a better moment that never quite comes. That is not covenant, that's performance. Covenant, real covenant, is what we choose when we are willing to be honest, even though it costs something. We are willing to hear hard things about impact without collapsing into shame or deflecting into defensiveness. When we protect the dignity of the person naming the harm first before we rush to protect the reputation of the person being named. So what does it mean to actually live this covenant? This one, our covenant, when race and power and history make everything more tender and more complicated. For me, it means asking some sharper questions. When staff and marginalized people name harm, do we receive that as a gift to our community or as an inconvenience and a threat? When white hurt and white reputations are on the line, do we move faster and more decisively when BIPOC members, staff, or other marginalized folks say, this is not sustainable, this is not okay? And when we use language like white supremacy culture, do we use it to open up shared responsibility and honest reflection, or do we use it only to bludgeon or to shut down conversation entirely? These are honest questions, and our covenant asks us to ask them, because love is big enough to hold the conflict they might create. What gives me hope is that covenant is a choice we can still make. We can choose to tell the truth about what has happened here without collapsing into shame and without retreating into denial. We can choose to center repair with those who have been structurally harmed, staff who were overworked and underprotected, people who raised concerns and felt sidelined, folks who quietly slipped away, not only those who feel newly accused. We can choose to build a clearer structures of accountability so that no one committee or informal group functions as an unsupervised authority over staff or as a gatekeeper of what conversations are even allowed to happen. And we can choose to speak, finally, into the silence, because that is what our covenant asks of us. Not to be comfortable, not to be polished, not to protect the institution at the expense of the people the institution is supposed to serve. It asks us to be honest in our communication, even when that honesty creates friction, even when it surfaces grief, even when it means sitting with the painful truth that our impact has sometimes contradicted our intent. And it asks us to hold love. Not as a reason to avoid hard conversation, but as the reason to stay in it. Love as the force that, even when we have failed each other, believes we can do better. Love as the thing that makes repair not just possible, but worth it. So I want to close with a question and an invitation. What might you like to do next to counter systemic racism and oppression within these walls and beyond them? That question is not rhetorical. To use anti-racism multicultural ministry, ARMM, is offering you a concrete place to begin answering it. Next Sunday, April 26th at 9:30 a.m., there are 2 gatherings happening simultaneously, and I want you to know about both of them. You may have heard of DRUM, diverse, revolutionary, Unitarian Universalist, multicultural ministries. We have an active 2U chapter, and it meets on the fourth Sunday of each month. If you identify as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color, our 2U drum chapter will be gathering in the 2U library. If you are someone who wants to show up in support of that work, our Drum Allies group is for you. Allies will meet in the loft, where Barb Michael will share insights from Aiming for Allyship, a UU online course with Atina Danner and UUs from across the country. The conversation will focus on how we communicate calling out and calling in when we encounter words or situations that negatively affect others. It is an opportunity to be part of the larger solution. Approach not as an obligation, but as a gift of learning and growth. 2 rooms, 1 commitment, both are open next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. My prayer for 2U is that we will be brave enough to answer these questions out loud with one another, and that our answers will be measured not by our words, but who feels safer, more seen, and more held by this covenant 5 years from now than they do today. May it be so. So please rise in body or spirit to join in singing our closing hymn, Rise, by Ariane Abella. The words will be on the screen.
I will rise As we come to the close of our service, Barb Michael will extinguish our chalice, even as we keep the light of our faith alive within us. I invite you to rest your hands upon your heart or clasp hands with those you are sharing your life with and hear these words. In what world are you powerful?
In this world, we can build people power together.
In what world do you act on knowledge and truth?
In this world, we can learn and move toward justice together.
In what world do you hold to your values in the face of what scares you?
In this world, we can affirm each other's resolve to do right together.
In what world are you confident in your worth?
In this world, we can affirm that each of us is enough.
In what world do faith and beliefs guide your choices?
Together, we can build this world.
In what world can you learn from those with less power?
Together, we can build this world.
In what world could empathy shield you from judging others?
Together, we can build this world.
In what world will your power plant roots and tend to branches and leaves? All together now.
Together, we can build this world.
Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.